right, welcome into the C3 Pod. I'm Steve Johnston, current toy expert on History's Pawn Stars, owner of Pandemonium Cards and Comics and Axis Entertainment. In the top right, you'll find Mr. Brett Lawson, student of the game, stage host for Pokékon, and more. He is an absolute Las Vegas legend. He joins us here in Las Vegas. In the bottom right, the human promotion machine, Mr. Paul Vato, joining us from Chicago, Illinois, in the building, and from beautiful, must-visit Bakersfield, California, in the bottom left. It is Mr. Brendan Allen, senior editor of ComicCon.com, joining us. This segment of the C3 Pod brought to you by the Toy Shack, located in Las Vegas, in the Fremont Street Experience, inside Neonopolis, owned by the original toy expert on History's Pawn Stars, Johnny Jimenez. Make sure you stop by and check them out. We appreciate their support of the program and, of course, everything that Johnny does. He is on hiatus right now. We hopefully will find Johnny back with us soon. But in the meantime, stop by the Toy Shack, say hello to the team over there, and pick up some cool vintage toys and some fun stuff. But, guys, welcome in. How's everyone doing? We had a crazy weekend, right?
Oh, yeah. That was jam-packed. Fun stuff, though, man. Fun stuff.
It's you're usually so good about throwing it to one corner.
I know, but I wanted to see it. What I wanted to see,
right.
I wanted to see if the face of the program, Paul Vato, would just take it. Yeah. But instead,
I loved it. Yeah.
He handed it off.
Well, anyway, yeah. So Brett started talking about Pokékon Las Vegas.
Yeah. No, but
wait, how could I step on you more? Start talking again. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But no, and this is a ball. I'm lobbing it to you, buddy.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Just tossing it up. What's so cool about it is that when we did the pod last week, it kind of said, even though it was 2 days off from that Friday, it seemed like still kind of far away because there was so much to still get done, especially for you, Steve, because we spoke on the phone once we were wrapped up with the recording. And it was like, wow, I wonder how this is all going to manifest. And lo and behold, next thing you know, it's Sunday night. I'm driving home. The Giants are playing the Chiefs. And I'm thinking, wow, that whole weekend's wrapped up. But what a weekend it was. I was talking to Brendan right before we got on to, get going on the show. And it's all like, it's just so cool to think about how, being an outsider and not being as familiar with the world of Pokemon, at least for quite some time, and since I was a little kid, it was kind of cool re-immersing myself into the culture while also doing something I've never done before. I've done conventions, I've done panels, I've done some stage stuff, but not necessarily in the capacity that I've done it this way along with Brendan. So I got to learn some great things with him. I got to learn some great things from you, Steve. It was just a very gratifying weekend, if nothing else. So I was happy about it.
No, absolutely. It was fulfilling. But Paul, what did you get into this weekend?
Well, I'm sorry. I really wasn't listening because I was just so furious. As I've told you guys as many times, the S is silent in Illinois. It's not Illinois. It's Illinois.
It's Illinois.
Paul, how do you say the state that we're in right now? Or at least that me and Steve, that Steve and myself are in. How do you say it?
I say, well, it's weird. I say it two ways. I say either Nevada or Nevada.
I figured it would be one of the two, but which one is it normally?
I say Nevada.
Okay. Good.
It really depends on how much Parse rum he's had, to be honest.
It's pronounced Parse.
See, once he gets the Parse rum in him, then all of a sudden it becomes Nevada.
Yeah.
So I just found out there's a third pronunciation of Illinois. So Illinois are the ones that I know, but there's Illinois is one that locals use a lot.
Illinois.
Where does the E come from? Illinois. There's no E in the word.
Well, you know what? I will give you Illinois. Where are you from? I'm from Illinois. But I will not. No, there are no two pronunciations. There is no S. The S is never pronounced.
No, there are not two. There are three. It's Illinois, and Illinois.
There is no Illinois. It's Illinois.
Is it Eleanor?
It's Illinois or Illinois are acceptable. The only time you're adding S's, the only time you're adding S's are when it's Soldiers Field.
Oh man, that's
or the Jewels. Because there's a Jewel Osco, but we just call it the Jewels. So that's the only time that you can add S's. We're not like
Illinois.
It's Illinois.
You know what?
Idaho out here. That's where the potatoes come from. Yeah.
You just came up with a whole nother T-shirt idea.
Yeah.
It's got to be Illinois band the S and then a big, circle with the line crossed through it. Illinois bans the S. Well, Paul, we're glad that you're upset with that because it's a great way to start the show. We've got you riled up, ready to roll. Brendan, you, I, and Brett spent some time here in Las Vegas at an event this weekend. I know that's what you did this weekend, and we're going to get into that right now. Tell us a little bit about your experience at the first Pokékon here in Las Vegas, held at the Ahern Hotel and Convention Center, and it included the Gross Card Con as part of the concept.
You know, I really just love getting around like nerdy fandoms and hanging out with them, because the thing is that, you know, at comiccon.com we cover so much stuff. We cover film, we cover anime, we cover manga, we cover comics, we cover figures, we cover just all kinds of shows. And the thing is you can't know all of those fandoms, but I am privileged to be able to see and be immersed in these groups and see just the interactions and the fan culture. And I gotta say, the Pokemon fan culture is incredible. We had a little boy lose his prized possession, his book of Pokemon cards that he's been collecting for years. I announced it from the stage. There was a group, a Pokemon collectors group, that said, hey, this kid is missing the thing. Within hours, we had found the book. But not only that, multiple vendors, including Steve's place, Pandemonium, had offered to bring this kid in and just give him cards to refill a new book if we couldn't find the original book. And then when we found the original book, because it got turned in because they're honest people, and you know, the community came together for this kid, he got his original book back, and then a bunch of the vendors still gave him a bunch of cards. And I thought that was a really, really cool thing to see. It was one of the highlights of the weekend.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see, and that's how the community reacts, right? Our friends at Las Vegas Funkaholics were really the ones that put it forward first. And what they did was they, you know, put it out there. Obviously, I replied. The family came to the stage to get the book. They had picked the book up at registration. We had one of the vendors actually had it and saw it in there and said, let's get it back to them. They came by on Sunday, picked it up. I took them over by this, you know, our booth at Pandemonium, gave him a surprise box, gave him another pack of cards for him to open and have some fun. I wanted that kid to really have a good experience. But then, as you mentioned, we had other vendors that followed in suit. They saw the kid carrying his book around the show, and they had all seen pictures of it. And they're like, that's the book. And then the family's like, oh, yeah, we got it back. And they're like, oh, well, here, have this. And I'll tell you, it was really, really cool to see. And that community this weekend really came together. Look, the Ahern was packed. The photo that you're seeing here, this is the center hub where our sponsors were. So that's actually behind the sponsor tables. And then you can see on the exterior of all the tables in the background, you can see all the people and everything that's going on. Was really fun. We had the 15-foot Pikachu in the middle of the room. And then we had all the cool activations, all kinds of stuff going on. And, you know, it was packed on Saturday. Saturday was nuts. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sunday felt like a Saturday, but Saturday felt like it was unreal. And the hotel was calling me. We had to have discussions about capacity and all that stuff because it was a real discussion, right? And it was really needed. But at the same time, what an environment, how much fun, and how engaging that community is. Everybody's talking to everyone. Everyone's having fun. And one of the things I think that we did that I really, really loved was we went and partnered with our friends over at the Rock Solid Card Show and did a kids bingo card. And they picked it up on the stage from you guys. They took it around to the different vendors, but we didn't do a map with it. It forced the kids. I was trying to get the kids to be more social. Look, our kids nowadays, they're stuck on their electronics. They're not, you know, as social in some aspects as they are in other things. But in the world of cards, these kids are really, really active. They love it. They're excited. So we have these kids running around the show asking, hey, do you know where this vendor is? Do you know? Is this you? Are you on here? Whatever it was. And the vendor engagement to that child was great because it gave that kid like a confident, you know, way to approach a vendor and talk to them. And then you come to find out how much the vendors enjoyed it. I had vendors that were like giving out stickers and pins and all kinds of stuff to these kids. And what's funny is we didn't tell the vendors they were on the bingo card. I did that on purpose. I didn't want them to know also. And the reason I didn't want them to know is because I wanted it to be kind of like a surprise to them. Like all of a sudden these kids come up and they're like, wait, my logo's on a bingo card, right? Because we're also big on vendor experience. So it was a combination of those two things, right? And in doing that, what I loved was just hearing the families talk about their experience doing the bingo hunt to black out the bingo card with the different vendors. And it was so much fun, right? And that's what we like. And I know, Brett, you saw the fun side of this. Yeah. Obviously, up the stage, I mean, there was a ton of stuff that happened up there on the stage, but just the environment of the room. Incredible. How did that really sit with you compared to some of the other shows you had done?
It was incredible. And I love the way you say that, because coming from the world of sports media, and especially being out here covering so many fights that kind of have this layout throughout the week of the various media events that you'll be doing for a fight, or even various other games, hockey, football, whatever it may be out in Vegas, you know, you navigate through a casino floor or a hotel floor or a lobby or a convention space. And it's not necessarily that you're annoyed by the fans, but you're kind of circumventing and moving your way around them because your priority are the athletes or the fighters, coaches, trainers, you know, promoters, people directly involved in the competition. That's your beat. That's what you're focusing on. Where the people that are there are every bit as much as the focus as the people on the stage, the vendors themselves, everyone in the costumes, all of it. You know, the active element of it all, the games Brennan and I were hosting up on the stage. We had cornhole. It was absolutely incredible. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. I did not think, I thought I was doing play-by-play, like sportscasting. Like, it was that electric as far as the cornhole back and forth, the competitive banter, the fun, you know, the fun.
Oh man, cornhole was fun.
Talking. Oh, it was amazing. And then you have the spinner with Mad Mike, you know, where everyone walks away with something. You know, you have it with the cornhole right there. We have a nice consolation winner because we did a King of the Hill style. Basically, last man standing, last person standing wins. But the person who essentially kicks, you know, has the best streak, you know, the person who has the most Undertaker-like streak, right, which was our man George had. He went like, 8-9-0 before getting knocked off. We still rewarded him for his efforts. And that's what it's all about. You know, Steve, your different giveaways that we were able to do through the Funkaholics on the last day. That was awesome. Our VIP giveaways that we did on Friday, where people were just coming up left and right. And just the community, the element of really just warm, welcoming people, whether you're a diehard Pokemon fan, whether you're a novice, whether you're just a little kid going with your parents who are big fans of it. Now they're trying to get you into it. I saw about 4 or 5 different people that I've known through the past, like at different gyms I've gone to, that I went to elementary and middle school and high school with. No exaggeration. Like, I saw more people at this convention that I just casually knew and bumped into. Brennan even saw it. And like that I have in any recent memory or any recent event in recent memory. So it was that communal, it was that warm, it was that welcoming. And certain fan bases, yeah, they are a little bit more polarizing, but not this fan base. This was an awesome culture to kind of just, you know, not necessarily infiltrate, but kind of be a fly in the wall to witness. And also, you know, kind of as the weekend progressed, immerse myself into. So as someone who's kind of an outsider to it all, it was really cool. And as much as I loved, you know, radio, podcasting, TV, and, you know, performing in this element, being there in front of people and interacting with them, it just takes the cake in a whole nother way. And that's why I was so happy to be a part of it.
Well, that interaction was really key. And as you can see here, you know, here's Mad Mike who, you know, produced this stage for us with the video and all that. And, you know, we wanted to create one of the things that I thought was really important for this show. Look, the world of Comic-Con has interactive capabilities, but it's primarily done through the guest component, right? It's always the guest thing. It's the guest panel. It's the whatever that is, right? And that's always big. But we wanted to create an atmosphere where there was an opportunity for families to come. And when they got there, there was a value experience provided, that it wasn't just about come and buy our stuff, right? I feel like anybody could throw tables down, put product up and say, come spend your money. Right. We wanted to be different than the other trading card shows that are out there. And one I want to give a nod to that I think does a really great job in the space, and that's Collecticon. Right. Collecticon does a lot of similar things to this. They have some big, you know, stage events. They open, you know, vintage Pokemon boxes or, you know, Magic the Gathering box or whatever it is, right? And have the different influencers in the different worlds out there to like open packs and engage with the crowds and stuff like that. But I wanted to make sure that the family of 4 who came to the event had an ability to have some activations that didn't cost them additional money. Look, there were stage events that it was a pay to play, but the reason it was a pay to play is because you were getting a product no matter what, and a chance to win a bigger product, right? But the photo ops, right? we scheduled those twice a day. We had the 3 characters available for it. And the photo ops were great because these characters were very impactful, very fun, very vibrant. And what I loved was seeing the smiles, not only on kids' faces, adults getting up there, but then seeing their family members just enjoying the moment, taking the pictures and having a good time. And then you talked about it. Our friends at Vegas TCG and the Funkaholics had, what we called trainer blessings, where we gave away, look, we broke a Korean booster box, nothing too crazy, but we were throwing packs into the crowd and having fun. And then you guys came up with some cool trivia questions and, drilled the crowd with the trivia questions. We interacted with them, and, Therese and her group over at Vegas TCG had some really cool plush and some graded cards and stuff like that they gave away on the stage, and then obviously we had for the VIPs, like something we didn't announce. We actually had one of our pay to play activations 100% free on Friday night for our VIPs to just be able to play and have some fun. We had 150, 200 VIPs in the door that night. Awesome. That everyone got a chance to come up, play the game once, take a chance and see if they could win a cool prize. And if anything, they got something. I just wanted to create an environment where everybody felt like there was an opportunity for them. And then let's talk about our special guest, Michelle Knotts. Right?
Oh, yeah.
She was incredible.
Outstanding.
People loved her. She was so much fun. She was engaging. She had an incredible panel with you guys, which Brendan, I know that you talked about how great of a guest she was. The energy that she brought was infectious. Wouldn't you say, Brendan?
Oh, absolutely. There's a joke that I made several times on stage that she's your favorite Pokemon's favorite Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because she has voiced she's got a card that she signs for people that, it's an 8x10 and it's got 200 Pokemon on there. And I was like, oh, are these all your Pokemon? She goes, no, that's about half of them. But, she's got stories and she's just a great resource, and she really knows the characters. She knows the cards. She knows the shows. And it's one of those panels that if Brett and I were not on stage, it would still be a very, very entertaining panel. But because, she's got all this knowledge and she's keying off on things and we're asking her questions and stuff, it was very conversational. It was just very engaging. We had people crowding up to listen to what she was saying because everybody in Pokemon knows who this is. And she's just so approachable. She had a line on that first day that went from her table. She had a McFoley line. It went from her table all the way around because she has taken that time to talk to each person, to give them an experience. And that's what they're buying. They're not buying the 8x10. They're buying the experience of being able to talk to this person that is such a part of their lives because they grew up watching the cartoons or, they've just seen the video games and things like that. And they really relate. And she's so relatable. And that makes for a great guest. And I would have done a panel with her twice a day, both days, if we could have.
Yeah, and I think we probably could have pulled that off, to be honest with you. I think that we could have done that with just the general flow of people we had. And I think the photo ops gave us a really good example because we saw all different people at the second photo op from the first photo op each day.
Every day.
And something else that was really, really cool was, we had Chumlee, my cohort from Pawn Stars, who obviously we were on, I guess history sees it as the second largest viewing audience ever of an episode with the Charizard episode. And Chumlee was so great with people. He was so engaging. It was so much fun. And then I and Gary sat for the first time and talked about the Charizard episode and kind of where that was. And to find out that King Gary has almost the entire collection still. And he's now got a market value, in his opinion, I just have to share that, a market value of in the $10 million range of Pokemon from that one episode, to just show you how it's grown, to show you how it is, and get that engagement from those type of guests.
And what an awesome guy Gary was. Not to interject, but wow, he was so, in my brief interactions with him whenever I could, just talk to him, shake his hand. What a gent. He was an awesome guy to get to
incredibly giving. He brought in his pocket, he had stacks of vintage Pokemon cards, 25-year-old Pokemon cards that he was signing and giving out. He participated in one of the photo opportunities, and people know who he is because he's so big in that community. But just, the generosity with his physical items. There we go. and the generosity with his time, for the kids and for people who just want to come up and talk to him. Just such a great guy.
He was incredible.
And this was a card that Gary did that is a metal card. He had this made, right? It's gold back, right? It's a metal card. He had 12 of these produced, and then he had Chum and I sign them with him because this is the only time we've ever done this discussion was at the show. And this was not talked about. Like, he didn't tell me he was doing this or anything. He just simply said, hey, I'm going to come out. I'd love to be there. Absolutely great. He was amazing with people. And that's what we needed at this event, right? We needed a fun event. We needed it to not have negativity behind it. We needed it to be a good time. And, I'm sitting here going, this is exactly how this is an event. And then on top of it, and you guys know this as well as I do, right? We were able to go ahead and announce from the jump the next day. Like, we gambled on ourselves and said, hey, when vendors showed up for load in on Friday, we were telling them, hey, here, save the date. Here's the next date. And at 10:30 Saturday morning, general admission opened at 10 a.m. We went ahead and announced to the entire place and then put it on the screens the entire weekend that we were returning May 30th and 31st, right back at the Ahern in Las Vegas. But one last thing that we need to mention really quick, and I don't want this to be an afterthought because it was so well put together, was we included the Gross Card Con, which was the Garbage Pail Kid Collectors and Wacky Warehouse, right? And so GPK and Wacky Warehouse hosted it, and they had a ton of creators out. They had a really fun environment. Their VIPs were stellar. They were great people, so engaging, so much fun. And they had an absolute, just massive following that was enjoying their portion of the show. And it really tied everything together. It was just the right amount of different from Pokemon, but still kind of did it. And then we had, our friend Michael Barnard created Knock cards and did the garbage pail twist on the Pokemon. And it was great. So we had, Charizard and I think it was Stinkachu, right? Were the two cards that you could get. And they were great. But this panel from the Gross Card Con, like the stage, the front was packed. Watching this was just amazing. People watching this. And for this many creators to want to be on stage to talk about Gross Card Con, I thought this was a really great way to identify this, as that's how they treat their community. Look at all these people that gave their time up from selling their stuff on the show floor to be up on a panel. It's incredible. And so Pokékon, we had a blast, huge support. We have to thank everybody for the support that they gave us for Pokékon. It was a production that House of Cards Entertainment, and I would be amiss to not mention that Lauren and CJ and everything they did to make this happen really, really drove it home. And I can't thank all the people that were involved enough. Our team individual, Chavez, Melinda, Shauna, the kids' involvement in what they did. A lot of our photos and video came from the 10-year-old, right? We sent her out to be the official person to capture all the content for the show because I wanted it from the kids' perspective. I didn't want the adult capturing every big card deal. I wanted to see what the kids dug, and it was really, really cool to do. We appreciate it. Again, coming back 2026, May 30th and 31st, right at the Ahern, and tickets will go on sale as well as vendor booths October 1st. You'll be able to get those tickets and everything. And I want to thank you guys, Brett, and of course, Brendan, for your guys' involvement in the show.
Here's to the next one.
Mike. I mean, we can't wait for the next one. And we know that this is going to build and grow, and we know that this is going to move around a lot. Paul, I know we didn't get a chance to get to your promotional stuff, but at the top of the next segment, Paul is going to get 2 full minutes, not 1, but 2 full minutes of self-promotion, and we'll be talking about some new stuff from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and NECA. That's on the C3 Pod, coming up in just a moment.
Peppermint Patty's the worst. Comic-Con.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comic-Con.com.
All right, welcome back to the C3 Pod. Of course, this segment brought to you by our friends in the Arts District, Las Vegas, at Voodoo Brewery. Always lots of fun down there. You can come out. They've got cool stage events. This time of year down there, by the way, and Paul will be able to tell you this time of year in Las Vegas, to be out on that outdoor patio playing, Jenga or whatever it is, having an entertainer on the stage. They've got, the hibachi grill out there hooking up, all kinds of stuff and everything cooking for you. And then all the craft beers and everything. Paul, how much fun is it to go to Voodoo Brewery on a beautiful night in Las Vegas where it's 85 degrees and just absolutely beautiful outside?
There is nothing better. I also like that they mix it up with the food vendors, maybe. And I don't want to say vendors because it's usually, vendor, one person. And it's, gourmet food that whomever happens to be cooking. I remember having some amazing burgers and hot dogs, but, gourmet style. And again, I'm from Chicago, so Illinois. So, I know my hot dogs. I know my burgers. I think a lot of people know their burgers. But yeah, they do such a great job over at Voodoo Brewing. And then, of course, you're there for the beer. They have a great selection, and there is nothing better when it's that perfect time. You're like, I know it's such a cliche, but it's like, man, if we could just stay like this all year round, we would be so darn happy in Vegas. I mean, the weather would just be amazing if it could be like that. Yeah, they're very special days when it's like that 80, 85 and you're outside enjoying the Vegas weather, eating some gourmet food and drinking Voodoo beer from Voodoo Brewing.
Well, and again, thank you to Voodoo for their support of the program. And also, we'd be amiss if we didn't say they also serve spirits too. So it's not just beers. They do have a full bar. They do trivia nights. They have all kinds of stuff. And Paul Vato is going to get his 2 minutes right now of run on his self-promotion, which Parse Rum is one of those liqueurs that you can find at Voodoo Brewery.
Exactly. So I was saying, by the time you listen to this, you should be able to go to Voodoo Brewing and pick up some Parse rum. And Parse, for those that don't know, it's a Colombian rum. It's unique in that it drinks more like a whiskey because it's been aged in bourbon barrels. So for those of you that are, purists, you may actually enjoy this rum. It's a 5-year, 8-year, and 12-year. And I'm talking about whiskey drinkers or bourbon drinkers would enjoy it. But if you're a rum drinker, you're just all out going to love it. You can go to parserum.com. Parse means friend in Colombian Spanish. So it's got a great history. It's all there on the website. But ask for it. And if it's not there, DM me so we can get it at your local bar, wherever you are in the country. We're getting it different places. I also represent Caddyshack Vodka, which is Bill Murray's vodka. So we're getting that into a lot of the bars. But, if you want to connect with me, just go to paulvato.com. Or if you want to join my school community, vato.club. And from the school community, it's fans, family, friends. This way I can just put out one message and everyone gets it. And it's I have different categories: comedy, improv, acting, my OWL community where you can talk to me just directly. What else? Travel, languages, all of my interests. I brought them all together in my school community. So I'd love to invite all of you guys also sitting up here on the dais, if you will, to join my school community because then we also have a podcasting category, which these are all my passions, my loves. So I brought them all together. If you just go to vato.club, it'll take you right directly to the school community. And it's like $12 for the year, not even a month. It's $1 a month, less than the price of a piece of gum. You can. Oh, by the way, also, I want to take this time. Did you guys find my Pokemon book at the Poke Convention? Because I also lost mine. So if somebody could send me.
It's funny. You talking about your book at the convention. Mad Mike was up on stage and some things came up, some terminology came up that Mike was unfamiliar with. And I told him, for reference, you need to get the Kama Susia because all of these terms are in there. But Brett and I, in a kind of candid moment when nothing was happening or whatever, we were sitting there blowing his mind with stuff that we read in the Kama Susia. So thank you for that. But also, get Mike a copy of that because he needs it.
Mad Mike left Pokékon very enlightened. Let's just say that.
Was cornholing one of the things? Because I don't think that's made it into the Kama Susia yet. But you go to kamasusia.com. get your copy of the Kama Sushi so you can be updated, with all these amazing, beautiful, erotic sex moves, mostly for his pleasure. But you know what? I think maybe we should do a Patreon special where I can read from the Kama Sushi, because I don't think this is for general consumption.
Well, speaking about the Patreon specials, is if you go right now for the $5 subscription, which again, you spend more than that for what? A bean burrito at Taco Bell is like $4 now. You believe that?
That's crazy.
It's for less than the price of 2 bean burritos at Taco Bell. Right now, you get those little extras where we're candid in the studio, but we're going to be doing some things. Some of these things we talk about, like the Kama Sushi. Absolutely, Paul. Write that, send it over to me. I'll put it on there for our followers. But some other stuff that we talk about on the show that we go a little bit more in depth in, or something that one of us is an expert in, and we just think of, and we get a wild hair. We'll do some writing. We'll do some short little videos and things that are on there just for some bonus content. We talked about samurai films versus spaghetti westerns the other day, and that is a topic, seriously, that I could do 2,000 words on right now and put up there. So,
by the way, really quick to mention that. Did you see the art on the Mandalorian poster that they put out?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have that. That'll be available on the Patreon. If you jump on here soon, we'll have that. We'll talk about that for a few minutes, because I think we should look at that, and maybe we'll even pull it into an episode here. But the way they shot it just reminds me of one of those good old westerns. The way it's put together, it feels like one of those old western movie posters. So cool.
Yep.
I'm excited about that now. This isn't the time for us to talk about it. We will pull that in. It is releasing May of this next year, so Mandalorian and Grogu. But you did get the teasers and all that stuff and everything. I'm hoping Eric, the producer, was able to get these images I sent over. He may not have been able to get them. I'm not sure. But Paul, when you started talking about all the alcohol and everything, we did something really fun at Pokékon, which was we rewarded our sponsors with a gift. And the gift that we gave them was a bourbon decanter. But the decanter was actually Gengar. And it was pretty cool. So if we don't have those images now, we'll pull it up. There we go. And this decanter was the gift that we gave to our sponsors at the show.
And that fridge in the background is full of Uncrustables.
Yeah, it's 100% full of Uncrustables. Brendan has been in there. He's shopped in there. It's weird because he's got like this outstanding tab at the restaurant, but still hasn't paid his bill. But no, this was really fun and this was cool. But this right here, this is how Parse could make a name for itself.
Ooh. Right?
It needs to license Pokemon and do Pokemon decanted Parse rum.
I love that, man. What a collaboration. Thank you for putting it out there. I will, set it up, because I would love to have those decanters filled.
I like how he says you set it up, like he's not the PR guy for Parse rum. Hey, you do all the work, and I'm going to go ahead and take credit for this with my bosses. Right. Yeah.
I'll just show up.
Well, where do I get them? Where do I get these decanters? I love them.
Well, we'll have to talk about that. We'll start working through it, and we'll have some discussions, see if we can make this thing work. But I thought that was really cool. And so when you were mentioning it, made me think of the fact that creative bottle that we were able to find and put together for these sponsors was really cool. And it was a nice little nod, something different, but still tied in Pokémon, still had the Pokemon concept and theme to it. And so it was very fun. Speaking of something that's massive, just like Pokemon, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You never can go wrong with the stuff that Kevin Eastman and Laird came up with and created, and how it's continued to be taken on from the Nickelodeon group and continued to be relevant and everything. And NECA, which is one of the toy manufacturers out there, one of my more favorite toy manufacturers, because of the fact that their sculptings and details and everything that they do are so incredible. They are coming out with a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figure Footbots pack, and it is based on the 2012 cartoon. Brenda, tell us about this concept that NECA came out with. These are characters we don't really have any toys on yet, so this is pretty exciting.
Right. So the thing is that this was teased in August for September pre-order, and you're going to be able to pre-order them from Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth and Target. But they haven't been made available yet. And this is one of the only images that's come out of this set. And so I thought it was interesting to talk about because, you know, we do have these things happening with tariffs and with fulfillment and with manufacturing. And sometimes these things happen, but we got these sneaky little images. So this one, it's a series based on Nickelodeon's 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this is not my generation's TMNT, but this is like, you know, my kids' generation's TMNT. Mm-hmm. Known for a different animation style, character-driven storytelling. It reimagined the Heroes in a Half Shell for this generation. And if you look at this, this doesn't look anything like the foot that we grew up with, but these are foot bots, so they're animatronic or whatever. And it comes with all these different heads and hands and things. So this is something that NECA is very, very good at. This is the image that we have for the Target exclusive, the foot bots. And then we also have a couple of images for the Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth, but those are like much more teasery where we only see like the heads and things like that. So I thought it'd be fun to look at these, kind of dissect where the points of articulation are and the things that we like and don't like or whatever, but also know that like this was promised for this month and hasn't come out yet for pre-order, and that could mean that it's backed up with tariffs or backed up with production or whatever, but it's kind of cool to get a glimpse at what we might be looking at here soon.
Well, we definitely, you know, we know that the tariff situation has impacted the toy world probably heavier than most of the collectible spaces, right? Mm-hmm. So because of that, you do have delays. You had Hasbro was really, really out there talking about the fact that they were concerned that their fourth quarter numbers were going to be affected this year because of the lack of being able to move some of the product over. Because it's funny, but there may have only been a month and a half like disruption and delay as far as the movement. And yes, tariffs were increased. And look, unfortunately, as a consumer, prices are tacked back onto you, right? Target has this 2-pack at $69.99. Just 5 years ago, these 2-packs were $49.99. So understand this has had a huge impact on that collector community. It has become more expensive to truly be a collector. And these are now not toys. They are collector items. They are not toys. At $70 for a 2-pack of action figures, $35 an action figure is
you
not
left toy behind.
a toy, right? It's just not. Yeah. I like that, and I don't. And the reason I don't like that is because I really want kids to be engaged with an opportunity to find and have things they like. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that kids nowadays want articulation and they want all that stuff, but it's costing. And then the stuff that's put out for kids isn't interesting. It's non-articulated. And unfortunately, look, my action figures when I was a kid were the Star Wars action figures for 4 points. And now the new ones, as we were talking about, the knees bend, the feet turn. Look, this portion turns this. His wrist turns, his arms bend. He can make, his arm outwards. He can do all kinds of stuff. He can look at his bicep. He can look at his hand. He can do whatever these things are. And when you're making these articulated figures like this, the kids are really into the posability and being able to, show them off and play with them and make, real style poses. But when they're getting a 5-point articulation figure that's basically legs, heads, and arms move, kids aren't interested in that. But that's the price point item that's for kids that's out there, not necessarily this. I'm not knocking the item. I like the 2-pack. I really dislike about it, though, and I'm just going to share this one thing as being the toy guy, and that is I do not like the fact that I'm getting 2 sets of the exact same accessories for both of these. I understand they're bots, but there should be maybe there's a battle damage version rather than the extra set of accessories or something like that. Again, I'm not on NECA's creative team. I do wish that they would pull together kind of like a little focus group and find out what people would really be interested in, because I think their creative team listens to fans. Hey, we would love to have this character set, this figure, whatever it is, but give me some other things with it that make sense. This is why I was so amped about what Jada was doing with the Invincible line and with Mega Man, was because they listened to the fans and the stuff that's coming with it. Or even if we talked about the Street Fighter, how the different versions of the character were in there, or you could change the heads to change to a different version of the characters. Yeah, right. I like that. They do that for the most part, but why they didn't do it for this, I'm not sure. And I don't know if you guys have thoughts on these figures and kind of what your thoughts are, but that was my initial thoughts. But I did want to talk about the fact this is a collector's item and not a toy.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that these are still renders. I don't think that they have like the finalized images yet, but they are fair points that you make. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does actually come out exactly like that. But they wouldn't be doing just a mirrored image of one right next to the other one like that for the final product. It would probably be in the bubble, and like it might have different hands on it and stuff like that. But then these, the side type weapon or whatever would be on the side, whereas one of them would be holding a katana and the other one would have the mace there or something like that. I think this as a display is very poor, but the final product is going to look much better than this. This is kind of a render, I think.
Well, I can hope they can fix it. Look, Brett, I know that Ninja Turtles was a big part of your childhood, something like this. Were these bots? Was this something that like you were familiarized with, or were you a little too old at this point? Like
at this point, it had passed me by. But the thing is that since Ninja Turtles have the marketing, the promotion, that they always are in the proximity of everything they need. It needs to be from a pop culture standpoint. They always seem relevant, right? They may not necessarily always be trendy, but they've never really been irrelevant. And that's part of their appeal and their ability to adapt and re-evolve over the years. I mean, when you see, and I guess certain elements of it have kind of circled back a little closer to it, but when you see just how far at one point that franchise went from its original gritty graphic novel roots, right? Mm-hmm. When you see like how far it went at one point and then kind of meandered back to it in a way, with everything with The Last Ronin and everything else, like it's so iconic in the comic book world, but then it has its own life and its own pulse on the animation front, and of course in the action figure front, like we're discussing right now. So in terms of this particular line and what it's like alluding to with the Nickelodeon series and like, the early 2010s, that by that point, I had kind of already not necessarily exited the fandom, but it was more so that I wasn't interested in anything as far as day-to-day animation in terms of those cable type of networks at that point. But at the same time, I think it's very interesting what you bring up, Steve, because it shows us how popular these figures still are, whether it be from a toy standpoint or any other aspect. And you said it all, because that's kind of a part of the growing conversation anyway. Like, is it really worth this price if it's a toy? But you just said it right there. It's not a toy. It's a collectible. It left toy far behind once you exceeded $25, quite frankly. When it's an action figure, there may be certain toys that warrant the price, but an action figure, at that point, you're not even playing with it. It's about having it in your possession. And because of that, it warrants a much higher market price. And because of that, people are going to continue to feed into it. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But it's important to mention, like what you just clarified, it is a collectible at that point.
Yeah. And, Paul, whenever you see something like this, where this is really like more of a collectible and less of a toy, is there an expectation from you just as a casual fan that this has to have some element to it that's going to make it interesting for you to purchase it? Like, look, you don't collect these action figures, but what do they have to do as a manufacturer to like draw your interest in to maybe pick something up like this, because it would be fun to display for you or whatever it is? What's missing here? What are they missing?
Well, man, I don't know if anything is missing, because I remember, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when it first came out as a comic book. And again, now I'm giving you my real age, but being University of Illinois and going to the local comic book store and seeing, and it was just crazy. Like, wait, what is this? And then it became very jovial and happy-go-lucky. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but very light compared to what they originally were. And then now to see them back, I don't know what's missing, because I think, like Brett said, it's in the zeitgeist. It's out there, and it's not going away. I may not recognize it, but as an investor, I'll pick it up, and as long as I have the room to store it, and will it go up in price? For me, I think, and maybe I'm not looking at it like as a true, connoisseur of toys and things, but I'm like, well, if I invest in this, can I sell it later if I need to? But I don't know what they can do more to entice me more. If I see it, I want to buy it.
Once it becomes a collectible, I think that mindset and what you're talking about is exactly what people think, right? They think, is there an opportunity for me here to make some money down the road, possibly, whatever it might be. My experience with these packs is it's kind of a long-term play. This isn't going to be you go pick it up for $70 and look, maybe the first couple of days you'll make an extra 10 or $15 on it. Whereas there's items out there, look, we just in ad nauseum just went over Pokemon, right? And Pokemon's one of those items that literally a new set just came out this week. It dropped the Monday after our show, a brand new set dropped, which was Mega Evolutions. And you were seeing, the booster bundles, they sell for $25 and Marketplace is selling them, secondary market for $75 and they're being snatched up, right? You're not going to see that with this type of an item, but it's one of those items that like it'll be around for a while. It might even sit on the shelves for a little bit, and all of a sudden it disappears. And then another year, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years down the road, all of a sudden that item's selling for 80, 90, $100. So this isn't going to be something that you're going to get rich quick off of, right? It's not going to be one of those type of investments, but it is one that does have such a big following. And look, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, Transformers, Dragon Ball Z, some of these lines out there, One Piece, that when they put out items like this, these things are really, really, a long-term gain. And I know, Brendan, you've looked at a lot of things over a period of time, and especially when you look at action figures and stuff like this, you always have a unique take on this. And I'm really just kind of interested to see what your thoughts are when you see Ninja Turtles kind of taking some side characters, putting them out as a special release and doing this. Kind of what are your thoughts on this release here?
Well, it's funny to me because one of the things that's really interesting to me about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is that it all began as satire. So when you look at the origin story of the Ninja Turtles, they get the goo, or they wander into the goo and they become the something different. They get superpowers. And then you look at Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and he got his superpowers from, toxic waste, right?
Yep.
And then his mentor is Stick, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mentor is Splinter. And like, there's so many things. It began as a satire of Daredevil and just evolved into this whole other thing. And now, even now we're getting stories that are going back to the grittiness. The Last Ronin was a very gritty, just very heartfelt, punch you in the gut story, which was very relative to the original stories that were black and white and very sketchy. They were kind of like the Walking Dead originals, where it was black and white and it's got that very, even though it's inked, it looks very pencil sketched. But it's funny to me that you take something that began as a satire. Garbage Pail Kids began as a satire, and we just talked about Garbage Pail Kids. They used to be they were making fun of Cabbage Patch Kids, and now they're this whole other thing. And people who have never heard of the Cabbage Patch Kids relate to Garbage Pail Kids. And you've got that same thing happening with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I was saying these 2012 Turtles, I've seen them, and I don't mind them. They don't bother me, but it's not my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mine are the originals with the 6 points of articulation and, the original comic books and things like that. But I love how much it has evolved. I love how many different directions it goes. And I love that every generation has their version of TMNT, going back to the 80s. So it's a fantastic franchise. I love it to pieces. And I love seeing these new directions that they're taking. These foot Android things that we're looking at here, those things would have been terrifying back in the 80s in the original series and stuff. And I nothing is out of universe, but it's just a kind of a different little tweak, a little different perspective on the characters that we've known and loved for so long.
Well, what I think here is, when you're talking about that, it made me think about this. And, that we don't normally do this, but Eric, the producer, can we pull you in? Because I want to talk to Eric for a minute about this, because Eric, I think this is one of those lines where in the world of comics that this is one of the few that really has succeeded with being incredibly kid friendly on one front and very adult, dark, and driven on another. In the world of comics that you come from, what have you really seen with this franchise that has really stood out to you when it comes that plethora across the board of everybody, right? Like, what really stands out to you with how Ninja Turtles has delivered that? How have they had success with that?
I think it's something that Brendan was alluding to, which is the fact that it does reinvent itself, almost on that what is it? A children's line has maybe 5 years of life to it. And it feels like maybe they do it every 6 or 7 years, but the fact that they reinvent it specifically for kids, that means you always have a kids line ready to go, while the previous generations always have their higher end collectibles, always have their, Eastman Laird books to go back to. Some people it's the Archie run that they fell in love with. And so you've even got the toys of them in their wrestling costumes, right? Like that's very much, I think, a key to it. And the only thing in the comic book world that's roughly analogous to that is Batman, because Batman also has that range and gets reinvented every 20 years he gets reinvented. But it creates that thing where not only can the parent share it with the kid, but the kid also gets a version of it that they get to own for their lives. And it feels like that's what the Turtles have done in a way that, Batman, absolutely. Maybe Transformers also has that longevity because it.
Yeah, but I don't think Transformers has been able to pull off the dark side, right? You haven't been able to get the dark Transformers. And look, Last Ronin is graphic. It is dark. It's aggressive. And it's
sad. It'll make you cry.
It's sad. It's that. I don't want a kid reading that, right? That's not a kid reader. But what you're talking about, and I think what you brought out was the adventures, right? The Archie Adventures Turtles. And that really was coinciding with the animation, with the TV show, right? Because the original book, as well as anybody, that the original Ninja Turtle book, that first 5 to 7 books, even maybe up to 13, right? The introduction of Crane, that comic book, that wasn't really written for kids. It was really an adult reader. And because the cartoon spun off and they did that character changes where they made everyone a little more happy and a little less dark, and they colored their bandanas, whereas they weren't colored in the original comic book release. Like, they've continued to reinvent. And that's why I wanted to bring you in, because I thought you would have that really unique perspective of actually, talking about them reinventing it and everything. So it does give that good perspective. And you're right, they're reinventing themselves on a more regular basis than other franchises have been able to do. And Brendan, I know you have a point on this.
Well, and I just reinventing themselves every generation basically is what they're doing. And then everybody has that emotional anchor, like mine are to the 80s and 90s, right? And then you've got the kids that are growing up now. They're going to be buying these collectibles down the line because they remember their 2012. So by making a significant change to each 8 or 10 years generation of kids that are watching them or reading them or whatever, those kids know this is my TMNT, this is my Vader, this is my Daredevil, right? Because this is my Batman, because they keep doing that. And so seriously, I bought little replicas of the 90s ones that I had when I was a kid for my kids. They've got 15 points of articulation. Mine never had that, but it looks like them. And so it makes me want to play with them.
And that's what's so prominent about, it almost permeates or, transcends rather outside of fandoms. Like, you look at great bands, you look at great professional wrestlers, you look at great fighters, great athletes. The ability to reinvent yourself, Steve, is something that we talk about in the sports talk shows that we host. It's something that, Brennan and I can talk about with the professional wrestlers we watch from. I've already mentioned The Undertaker kind of jokingly, but he reinvented himself. Chris Jericho reinvented himself. We've seen Hogan reinvent himself. Steve Austin reinvented himself to save the entire industry, or at least save an entire company, right? Like, the way you can repackage and evolve and constantly metamorphosize to make yourself better and more appealing, that's like a timeless theme in entertainment. So the fact that the Ninja Turtles franchise has been able to do it, to me, it almost they deserve that type of credit. Like the Beatles, they were around for 8 years, but no two albums sounded alike.
Beatles suck.
You deserve credit for that. And whether you're a huge fan or not, you have to chalk it up to just that for their.
You had to bring up the Beatles, huh?
What's that?
I said you had to bring up the Beatles, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
That's such a sore spot with Brendan, apparently. Guys, look.
Brendan is a Kinks partisan. That's his view. He's not even a Stones fan. He's a Kinks fan.
All right. So, look, we have a Patreon, guys. We're going to discuss the Beatles on the Patreon. So make sure you guys check in on that. We're going to find out why the Beatles rub Brendan so wrong. But the other character that I just want to think of really quick, when you mentioned Batman, made me think, you know what? Spider-Man and the cast of characters from Spider-Man probably get reinvented even maybe more often. And I hadn't really thought about it until you said that, Erik. And what a great contribution, and we appreciate it. Erik is behind the scenes producing everything for us, but he really, really knows his stuff when it comes to our origins and comics and roots and all of this stuff and everything. And I definitely wanted to do that. But coming back after this break, we have the new comic books for the week, including new Spider-Man, in fact, Spider-Man Noir. But we'll be following that up right here on the the C3. I don't know why I did that. You know, I was reading something and I shouldn't have been on the C3 pod right here on the One of Us Comics Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Patty's the worst. Comic-Con.com, your daily comic convention online. Insightful reviews of the comics, toys, and games you need to know. Delightful chats with luminaries from around the geek spectrum. In print, on video, and everywhere in between. The show never stops on Comic-Con.com.
All right, welcome back to the C3 pod. This time I didn't stumble over it, but we're back. Third segment of the show. We talk about comics and all kinds of stuff coming up this week. And this segment of the podcast brought to you by the Nerd Bar located in Neonopolis, Fremont Street, second floor right upstairs from the Toy Shack. All kinds of cool events going on all the time. They have the micro wrestling there. There's all kinds of things. You can play video games. You can do bowling. And look, the memorabilia and merchandise that's in the building as well is very, very cool to see. So definitely next time you're in Las Vegas, stop by, see Johnny Borchata and the team over there at the Nerd Bar. Make sure you tell him that the C3 pod sent you. Of course, he'll pretend like he has no idea who you're talking about. But, you know.
Because we haven't told him he's a sponsor of the show yet.
Well, no, he actually is, and he does know. But what he does is he plays dumb on things all the time just to make people feel like, what are you talking about? And then they'll turn around and be like, do you notice how they
like, no, you're a sponsor now. Where's that check?
And he knows. But anyways, go back, see their team. Seriously. Very, very cool place. Very fun. And obviously in the world of pop culture, it's a nice getaway in Las Vegas from all of the, gaming machines and all of that stuff to go have a little fun and have a spot to do that. And, make sure you tell them that we said hello. But we've got new comics. We teased coming into it. Spider-Man Noir, #1. And Brendan, tell us about this one.
All right, Spider-Man Noir #1. This kicks off a 5-issue mini. They're teasing a cameo of Hardboil in this one. And if you've seen the Spider-Verse or seen some of the other mentions of Spider-Man Noir, Hardboil is one of his favorite characters to bring up and tell stories on and stuff. So that's exciting. It says brush up on the coolest Spider-Man before he hits the small screen. It's the 1930s, and Peter Parker's a private detective by day, vigilante Spider-Man by night. Things were going well until a certain dame walked into his office and asked Peter to solve the case of her father's murder. The dame's name? Gwen Stacy. Oh, so Gwen Stacy's going to be in this one too. This has also always been a fascinating character for me. I loved seeing him in the Spider-Verse movies or whatever. One thing that I'm not super keen on this cover, and I hope that it's not on the interior as well, is the presence of color with this particular character.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why you're probably getting a little more color into this is just the fact that they have the TV show coming up. And with the TV show coming up, I think this is going to be one of those books where there will be some element of this that they'll say, oh, this is storyline lead-in or storyline cross. Usually, since it's coming out before the series is coming out, that it's probably going to have some lead-ins to it, probably an introduction of a character or, some type of protagonist that is there. I kind of like this cover. I think it's cool. I know there's a cool variant cover. I think we should talk about that one.
All right. So this is the 100 incentive by David Mack.
Awesome.
The imagery on that, you see very clearly in the front there is Spider-Man Noir. They've done this very stylized, almost like a Nancy-like negative space thing there. But again, with the color, so they're doing watercolor. You've got the detective sneaking by in the bottom there, which is reminiscent. Again, we talked about Nightwing before, doing that kind of detective homage. This is taking Spider-Man back to the detective, back to the black and white, back to the goofy slang. I like the concept of this one, but I really, again, wish that this was strictly grayscale black and white, because that's kind of the era that Spider-Man Noir fits into for me. So I haven't seen the interior pages on this yet, but I do hope that it's a black and white comic.
Yeah.
I just wonder if maybe their focus groups didn't necessarily show interest to black and white. I don't know. They do that with some of these books where they'll pull in focus groups and they'll ask and everything. Brett, this is one of those books and character lines that really kind of aligns with your childhood and kind of the Spider-Man you got, because Noir was really kind of introduced during that time period for you. Was this a character that was introduced to you heavily? Did you really get into it? And then what are your thoughts now as an adult?
So not heavily initially, but I did get really into it. It's a great way you phrase it, because what we're seeing now in the Spider-Verse movies, and really just with the Spider-Verse comics and really anything that taps into that avenue of the greater Marvel, multiverse, are these characters, the Ben Rileys, the Spider-Mans, 2099s, all these different versions that were really big in the 90s, really big in the early 2000s, when I became, not necessarily introduced to the character, but obsessed with the character. And it's just like what you just talked about in the last segment, Steve, how Spider-Man kind of falls into that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Batman, dare I say the Beatles is rage bait again, but it kind of falls into that category of the ability to constantly re-evolve and constantly reinvent yourself. And this is an example of just that. Spider-Man, by the time Spider-Man Noir already became a thing, had already been, expanded upon in so many different ways. But to take this, certain direction with it, and this, deviation from everything that we knew about him so far, this was one area that they went with the character that I think was so unique and is still so unique. And everything with, Nicolas Cage voicing him in the animated movies, and now again getting his own series. It's just timely, and it just shows what you mentioned, Steve, how Spider-Man is, as he's as adaptable as they come, and he just keeps up with the times, and he's never boring because there's always something you could do with him. And this is just another example of that. And I can't wait. Anything with Spider-Man, I'm essentially just a sucker for. So yes, please.
Well, and I like your reference of them using Nick Cage as the voice, and then turning around and using Nick Cage in the live action, because that's something that, look, Lucasfilm figured that one out.
Yeah. And
so they were using their, some of their character voices in the animation to then bring those characters to the big screen in live action and use those same actors. So I think that's a win. And, you talk about, these nods back and forth to different type characters and the evolutions and stuff. There's a comic book line, and this is going to be the next one we talk about, which is, Spirits of Vengeance, that really is based around the Ghost Rider concept. And now we have Spirits of Violence 1, Brendan.
Right. So the Spirits of Violence were first mentioned in Spirits of Vengeance number 3. So early on in the series, now they've got their own series. It's a number 1. It's going to have Johnny Blaze, Donnie Ketch, Robbie Reyes, Kushala, Phantasma, and Helverine. It says Ghost Riders unite. When a strange group of new villains set their sinister plan in motion, Ghost Riders past, present, and future must combine forces to save the world. But just who is the spirit, who is the spirit of violence, and what horrors do they bring from Johnny Blaze's and Donnie Ketch's past? So it's bringing in different iterations of the Ghost Riders as a team, and then it's bringing in a rogues gallery to fight them. And it's just one of those things where you get an idea early on in a series or in the middle of a series or something like that, and you're like, hey, we could probably expand this. And then the reception that you get from fans and readers makes you go and make a whole other series. So that's what we've got here.
Now, we do have to qualify something really, really quick, because I see his eyes are down. He is thinking really hard. Spirits of Violence, Paul, does not mean get drunk and fight, okay? I know that ruined it for you. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry.
I'm in that case, I'm not interested. Now, the only way I would be interested is if we could put it to a Beatles soundtrack, then I would definitely enjoy it, as a live action.
You know what, guys? I've got a previous engagement. I got to go. Y'all have fun with the rest of the comics, and I'll see you next week.
Man, the Beatles.
Honestly, I can't believe that Paul's biggest wish just came to life. The day that Brendan walked off the podcast.
Walked off the set.
I think we'll be just fine. Roll it.
Yep, that's the pod. That's the podcast.
Whoa.
All right, well, look, this
all right.
cover, I mean, obviously any of these Ghost Rider covers are always, they're always impactful. They always have really cool art. Me personally, I love the Helverine, right? So I just love like what they're doing with Helverine and everything. Yep. And I think that that's a very, very cool piece. Now, there is a Marvel Zombies variant that was done by Kyle Hotz here, right?
Yeah, no, and I don't know much about this series. I don't know much about this character, but I would buy this comic for this cover right here. This is very reminiscent of the Garbage Pail Kids. It's very reminiscent of lots of different things that we've seen. James Stokoe, I can see doing something like this. This right here, look, no notes. It's perfect.
Ghost Riders, motorcycles, and then you have to think about Ratfink when you look at this, right? Like
Yeah.
this has that Ratfink art feel to it. And like you mentioned, the Garbage Pail Kids, the wacky packs, the stuff like that. This is a dynamic cover, in my opinion.
You know what?
Oh, look at that.
Like?
Eric,
Yeah.
Producer Erik with notes. It does look like Iron Maiden's Eddie. That's a good call.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie, it's like a mix of Iron Maiden, the Garbage Pail Kids, wacky packs, a little bit. Remember the old Goosebumps covers? From the paperback Goosebumps covers, how some of those would get kind of like, far out. It just screams Ghost Rider. You have the chains, you have the flames, you have everything you would have, the Hellfire, everything you could possibly want. I think both of these are absolutely outstanding because I think if there's one thing about Ghost Rider and the spirits of vengeance, in this case the spirits of violence, the aesthetic there, you want over the top. There are certain heroes you want over the top with, especially in Marvel. Thor is one of them with the cosmic, Asgardian type stuff, the Norse gods, the Nordic gods, and all that mythology. You want that to be over the top. Well, you want stuff referring to hell and demons and deals with the devil and Mephisto and so on and so forth. All the different iterations of Ghost Rider. You want that to be out there, and this is exactly that.
And when you think about Ghost Rider and just kind of the cross and the universe and everything, Ghost Rider really crosses a lot of the Marvel universe, really kind of ties a lot of characters together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, mentions and references throughout, the different, lines. So I think this, again, this cover is awesome. Now, again, this one, do we know, this is just a variant cover. This is
open order. This is not an incentive cover. Your LCS can get this one for you. Just open order. So,
well, we definitely will have this cover at our store. But I would encourage you to pick this one up. I think this is very dynamic, very, very cool. And look, this pod, I think we all are in agreement that we like when there's good room for signatures. And I think that this book really gives you this cover gives you that ability to have a really nice space for signatures, vibrant colors, those electric, blues, the bright greens, the yellows for, your autographs from different creators. I think that could look really great on here. And I even think you could probably get some really neat remarks done on a book like this, because it would really encourage, some of these creators to kind of think outside the box because this cover's so dynamic. So I think that would be a great one. So, Brendan, what's up next?
Next up, we don't cover Image a whole lot, but Image does have its books that, have just been around for a while, and series that have been around for a while. So this is Rook Exodus. And in this issue, we've got the first full appearance of Bloodhound, Matterhorn, and Stag. So 3 first appearances. It says the critically acclaimed series returns. The quest to save Bloodhound begins. Once the most respected of the wardens, the father of Direwolf has disappeared, vanished off the wildlife grid with whispers of madness following in his wake. I don't know what any of that means, but that's a cool cover.
The cover's dope. I really love how they grayed out and kind of faded the background and gave you the impact of the character, but you can still see that it's, you got the Direwolf in the front, and then you've got the wind and maybe a little bit of snow, some sleet kind of coming in. Look, this is very reminiscent to Absolute Batman 8, right? The snow and all that and everything and the color scheme. But this is cool. And I really I usually am going to be a virgin cover guy, right? And would say that this would look much better as a virgin. But I actually don't think so. With it slightly being see-through on the Rook logo, I think this that's done really, really well. And I would have to say that this cover, this is a very cool cover. I like this a lot.
Well, the composition's really good too, because you don't lose anything with the trade dressing. It bothers me so much when an artist goes full bleed and then they ignore all that with the trade dressing, because sometimes they'll change the logo or turn the logo to make it fit better with a full bleed image. But this one right here, all of the trade dressing fits perfectly and actually interacts a little bit, because the foreground is in front of the logo. The logo is between us and the background. And so it's also giving it like a 3-dimensional feel by having the trade dressing in there between elements.
Very layered. Yeah,
for sure. I think the nice cover. I don't know a lot about the book personally,
right?
But I absolutely think it is. I will tell you this though: this next book, do not be surprised if this book becomes massive very quickly.
Very quickly. All right. So Absolute Evil #1. This one has got a lot of introductions. So we're going to see Absolute Green Arrow for the first time. And we're also going to see the team up of Ra's al Ghul, Veronica Cale, Eleanor Thawne, Hector Hammond, and the Joker. This is the 1-year anniversary of the Absolute Universe. And they're celebrating that by bringing the villains together united. Without heroes, without protection, without restraint, there is only absolute evil. And Al Ewing's on this one. And if you don't know Al Ewing, do you even read comics? Because they got a superstar for this series, and I think it's going to be really great.
Look, the Absolute line has been massive. I've talked about it ad nauseum all the way through the podcast and continued to do that. And I will tell you, this book will be massive because the villains have only really been introduced and starting to be showcased into the Batman line and a couple of the other books. And when we say we're a year into it, if you were to tell anybody, hey, did you know that Absolute Batman's a year old? There's no way, because you had reprintings of Absolute Batman 1 released on the 20th of September for Batman Day. So that book's still being reprinted a year later because the line is doing so incredibly well. This will be absolutely a smash hit for them, and I cannot wait to see what they do with these characters, because what they're doing in that whole universe of Absolute it's crazy. It's completely off the cuff. It's not the same. It's not what you know. It's not the Batman you grew up with. It's not Superman. Wonder Woman is not friendly. Like, you know what I mean? It's very, very cool. I like seeing this. The cover is cool. I'm not, it's not one of those grab me covers, but it also does give the impact of exactly what they were looking for. So I would say pretty well done. Paul, what do you think of Absolute Evil #1?
I love that cover. I also don't know what exactly it's going on, but I do. I love that cover. But I'm a big fan, and I don't know if this is like a throwback, but like, detectives, in the 30s, 40s, or that kind of film noir feel. So I'm a big fan of that cover without even really knowing what's going on.
I think you have some hints on those Polaroids at the bottom, because I see the Joker's hand. I recognize some of the hands that are in there. Those are the bad guys we just introduced as part of the team. But then you look at their hit list on the floor there, and Superman is ripped. Does that mean Superman is dead? Batman's got a tear, but it doesn't go all the way through. Does that mean Batman got injured? He got targeted? There's a lot going on in this cover, and I think it adds to the speculation and the anticipation of what's going to happen in this series.
Well,
absolutely.
How grimy and dirty. Both the aesthetic, but physically, like they're just covered in dirt and stuff. I don't know. That adds to it.
Now, I was going to mention this. You know what I'm also a fan of? Old, like fight films, right? Mm-hmm. Like old fight films where your audio was off and your mouth was moving. Because Paul just gave us his rendition of the fight films, which was great. And Paul, we really appreciate you taking back that nod. You might want to step up Mom's internet there, bud. Just wanted to say. Now there's a New York Comic Con variant that's coming out, and it's a Nakayama. So as soon as you say it's a Nakayama, like I'm in. Mm-hmm. I'm in.
Right. So it's David Nakayama. They're calling this the gatefold variant. But what's unique to this one that we haven't talked about yet is a convention exclusive. And what that means is that they're going to have 100 of these or 200 of these or 5,000 or whatever the number is. It's probably going to be in the several hundred if, past experiences would dictate. But the thing is you can only get this at New York Comic Con unless they don't sell out. But what they try to do is hit that number that's going to be the perfect sellout for the event they're going to. New York Comic Con is huge. So there's probably up to 1,000 of these that are going to be available at New York Comic Con. And then that's it. But if they don't sell them all at New York Comic Con, the excess is usually available online at their website. So you might be able to catch this in other places or on the secondary market after New York Comic Con. But this is one of the reasons why people go to the big conventions, is to get these exclusives so they can either collect them for themselves or have them for the secondary market.
You're definitely not going to see this one make it through. I'll argue day one, let alone day two, unless they allocate per day, because there's no way that 5,000 in this book will not sell out at New York Comic Con, because of the Absolute universe is so massive, and the fact that Absolute Batman is look, right now in the world of comics, it's absolute Batman and then everyone else. You know, in our store, I can speak on that experience. We're probably at about a 70% clip of absolute Batman pull box subscribers. That's a huge number for pull boxes. Usually, like, your real good titles are about 30% of your pull boxes, right? That just gives you an idea. People who don't even like Batman are collecting the line because of all the fanfare it's created, the secondary market values. You're having simple books from the absolute Batman line. And don't get me wrong, simple books where you're introducing Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze isn't the biggest character in the, you know, Batman lore, right? But Mr. Freeze, that book, scaling in the secondary market, first appearance of Mr. Freeze, absolute Mr. Freeze and all that. And look, Brett, you understand this more than anybody when it comes to, you know, the world of Batman and how fanatical people can be, to then understand that when you pull in the casual fan and you've got their interest, that's a monster, right?
And I don't know if there's a single better, you know, character or just all overall, you know, mythology that you can do that for with Batman. Batman's the one character where you bring up, and it's almost, again, it's transcendent. You don't have to be a superhero fan. You don't have to necessarily be a comic book fan to tap into that. Now, in this case, it pertains more to the comic book side, but just the fandom at large, people, kind of like what Brennan said, people will show up to these. And I know, Steve, as you just said, good luck finding it, but people will still attempt to make this a part of their collection, even if they don't or haven't followed Batman comics in God knows how long, right? That's just the kind of appeal, the kind of traction the character has. And one thing that I find is interesting about this Absolute line that I'm learning a lot about as we're doing, you know, these shows week by week, is that it kind of reminds me of, what was it, the Marvel Ultimates? Remember around in the 2000s when the Marvel Ultimates became really popular and they almost became more of the trend than the original, you know, Earth 616 line. Those versions of the characters, even if it was just temporarily, they became like the common, most popular versions for those few years. And what's cool about this is it kind of taps into the same thing, but it's way more of a departure from what we normally get, right? The Ultimate Marvels were kind of just a tweaked, modernized, you know, almost like hip version of what we've already gotten. This is a completely different, you know, addition to the Batman canon, to the Batman, you know, just overall world, the Batman realm. So this is cool in the way that it's going to stand out the way certain elements of Batman always have. We just think of them now as an element of the past because at one point they were current and trendy, and now years have gone by. So this is just the next step in that, you know, chronology.
Absolutely. And Batman, obviously big. You know, Brendan, you've been following this since the jump. In fact, I have to give some credit to Brendan. Brendan told me when we first started talking about Absolute Batman, he goes, watch this one be massive because they are breaking the rules. I remember you telling me this. They're breaking the rules of what we know about evolving a comic book character, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes, sir. I said that. I did.
Very, very Batman of you, sir. Very Batman of you.
Right.
Yes.
Disappear.
I'm going to tell you right now, Paul Vato is thrilled right now. Paul Vato got you to want to walk out and to be speechless in the exact same segment.
Well, no, I was just looking at the time. You were throwing it to me, and I was waiting for you to throw it to me for the next book, which is Venom number 250. And so you caught me off guard for the thing, but I was like, hey, but producer Erik says we have 2 minutes here, so we need to get on to Venom number 250. This is going to be the first team appearance of Cult of the Void. It's also a legacy milestone. It's number 250. It says Return of Null. Venom and Mary Jane Watson are stuck with each other, and life just isn't letting up. But things can't get worse, can they? While the hits keep coming on Earth, the Cult of Void gathers in the depths of space, and only one Skrull soldier knows their terrible secret. Null has returned, and nowhere in the galaxy is safe. So I love Null as a character. I'm a big fan of Donny Cates. Donny was very, very generous when I was beginning my career 10, 12 years ago for interviews, for product, for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation auctions and stuff I was doing. He's a fellow TBI injured person, so I relate to a lot of the stuff that he's going through right now. But yeah, it's got Null on the cover right there. It's a return of a great character that was introduced by Donny Cates. And again, it's a number 250, and you've got a first appearance in it. The Cult of Void appears for the first time.
Now, I know we've got a Ji-Hung Lee Virgin variant, and I want to see that cover because, again, when he gets and touches those type covers, he's always very dynamic, right? And what I love about this is that although this is a Venom line and we're talking about Null and everything, here's that little origin nod to Spider-Man of, you know, maybe coming along here soon, we're going to get Spider-Man pulled into the mix and fray amongst Null and Venom. So hopefully that's what's happening here. What do you think of this cover, Paul? What are your thoughts on this one?
Compelling.
I love how gothic almost it is. But did we have something similar last week or?
Well, see, this one is a very Batman-esque, but it's Marvel instead of DC. But this one right here would 100% work as a Batman cover if you just change a couple little things on that figure that's looking out at you.
Without question.
I have to laugh because Paul sent in the chat really quick. He said, "My battery is low, that's why I'm lagging." And I'm thinking,
not the internet.
You had an entire week to charge your phone, Paul. An entire week, a whole week, and couldn't accomplish it. But it's okay.
Ma, where's my charger?
We're going to get ready to wrap up here, but I did want to bring light to an event that's coming to Portland, Oregon, January 31st, February 1st. The Unrivaled Show will be making its appearance out there in Clackamas. We located just across the street from Clackamas Town Square, southeast Portland. 100 tables of toys, comics, and cards. Be a lot of fun. And I'm going to let us in on who our first guest is, even though the guest has not been announced, and that is Stephen Costantino, who played the Gamorrean guard in Star Wars that was killed by Luke Skywalker. Stephen will be joining us soon on the podcast to talk about this appearance as well as all of the fun that he's had in the world of Star Wars since going all the way back to Return of the Jedi. He made an on-screen appearance as one of those characters that we've come to love in the world of Star Wars. But you're talking toys, comics, and games, and of course our friends at Rogue Toys Portland helping present the show. So once again, the Unrivaled Show, head on over. You can get tickets and your vendor spaces now. Just visit theunrivaled.show.com. And otherwise, guys, we're going to wrap the show today. We appreciate everyone coming out. Of course, it's been a lot of fun and a lot of good talk, and I think it's time to say goodbye. See you guys.
Bye. Hit that old dusty trail. Fun stuff once again. What are we, 3 episodes down now? 4 episodes down?
This is the 4th. This is number 4.
Wow. This is big. Made it through 4.
Oh, Paul, didn't you have something else that you wanted to talk about?
One of my favorite comics. And I'm sorry to spring this on you, Brandon, but I got to tell you about my favorite comic. Eric, if you could put it up, that would be great. I think it's still available. I don't know if Eric has it there. If not, maybe we can do it next week. Because I love it. I think it's highly collectible. The artwork is amazing. If it's,
I love how well prepared you were that you sent the image to him. Yesterday, the way I sent out all the images so we would have it queued up.
Yes, yesterday.
Sorry, Paul, were you talking?
I was. You didn't hear any of that?
I completely. I'm sorry. I thought we were done.
I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. We are done. Yeah.
We'll do it next week. We'll do that.
I don't know. Join the Patreon. Maybe Paul will be able to talk there about it. I don't know.
Guys, am I gonna get to pitch my stuff? Can I pitch my Vato coin? I mean, it says VatoCoin.com. Ah, damn it. All right, bye. Back to eating.